What's up, peers, and welcome to Bitcoin to the Max here on the World Crypto Network. Let's talk about the base monetary unit, which is being transferred with every transaction from Alice to Bob, and then how we can aggregate them to the total money supply. Well, initially in our barter stage economy, Alice has her apples. Well, let's assume that she has a total of 10 apples. So the monetary base unit would be one apple, right? It's the one single and kind of indivisible good that she can use in her everyday transaction. In total, all of them together, there are 10. And now when Alice is handing over one apple to Bob, well, yes, she has given him control and ownership over one apple, so the quantity one. But very interesting also is the percentage that she has given up compared to the total supply of apples. So 10 apples in total, she hands Bob one. That means 10% of the total apple supply have been shifted to Bob. And thus he will have to give up something that is of higher value to Alice than this 10% of her total supply. And that might be 100 berries of a total of 500 berries that Bob has accumulated. So Bob, in this sense, is trading 100 berries or 20% of the entire berry supply for Alice's one apple or 10% of the apple supply. And if it's mutual beneficial and voluntary agreed upon, then both parties are happy. Now, how does this apply to the money economy itself? It's actually rather similar because a money, after all, is just a good. Good that is used mainly as a store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. But after all, it's just a scarce good that is being shifted around from A to B. But specifically, how does this base monetary unit and total money supply work in Bitcoin? Well, although we say it's Bitcoin as the base monetary unit, actually that's not entirely correct. Because in the N value field, a little field inside a transaction, inside a UTXO, there is a number denominated in Satoshis. So 100 millionth of one Bitcoin. And this is actually the base monetary unit, which is being transacted or shifted from Alice to Bob with every single transaction. And the total amount of these Satoshis, well, let's multiply them by 100 million and talk in Bitcoin again, because the total amount of Bitcoin is 21 million, according to Nakamoto consensus. And therefore, when Alice is sending, let's say, one Bitcoin or 100 million Satoshis, as it is defined in the N value field, she's actually sending one of these 21 million Bitcoins, so a small percentage of the entire amount of Bitcoin in existence, over to Bob. And he has to, of course, exchange something for Alice that is in accordance to her preference scale higher, that she would prefer over this one Bitcoin. And interesting here is to see that it doesn't really matter the size of the individual monetary asset that is being transferred. If we're talking about Satoshis or Bitcoin. But what matters is the percentage allocation. How much of the entire supply, percentage-wise, are you giving up? And this means if we have, for example, Bitcoin with only 21 million Bitcoin in existence, and then Litecoin with 4 times as much, well, then in order to give the same percentage of the total supply in Litecoin, you would have to give 4 times as many units, well, light Satoshis, or Litecoin, over from Alice to Bob. And this is more a unit bias, right? We like to deal with larger numbers. And if you can just create more out of your currency, then the value for every single monetary asset will be smaller. And at least ceteris paribus, with everything else being equal. So important is not how many units are you transacting, but what percentage of the total money supply are you actually handing over? And that's why it's so important that the total money supply does not continuously change. And that is something that we will talk about tomorrow here on Bitcoin to the Max, a show that is sponsored to you, the peers of the World Crypto Network. Because thanks for your support on tallyco.in/HillebrandMax, you get early access to all these shows as soon as they are produced. Peers, it was a pleasure talking to you, and see you tomorrow on the next show. Bye-bye.